Hi, everybody. 1,700 and I'm on 1,738. Can you believe it? 1,738 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks and his life was taken from him right there on Fort Bliss. And it has been just an incredible day again with all of the evidence. There's so much evidence pouring in against Richard's chain of command. Uh, People are sick and tired of this and pointing out very, and I think it is because we have millions of views. Our reach is really expanding. And so people are becoming aware, and also because there is a new sheriff in town, because we have a president that is absolutely about law and order, about the border, about our military, about doing it right, about bringing in the golden age, and there's no golden age without the golden rule, right? There's no golden age without the golden rule, which means the Ten Commandments, which means the rule of law. And so we have this whole different environment that is inspiring people that know things, that are coming forward and giving us information and pointing out lots of different news. And so we are doing the best we can to keep up with all of that. Um, and we are absolutely aware that this is really all coming out, and it is hugely it's political, right? It's international, it's political, and we knew that, and we've been saying that for these years, that before we knew what happened to Richard, we would say whatever happened to Richard, it is so big. It's so big because of the response, because of the lack of normal standard operating procedures, that they did not follow what the military that we know of, and we are a military family, and Rob being a physician assistant, knowing how to respond to emergencies and everything, how they responded clearly was a cover up, clearly had them shaking in their boots, clearly, because they were shaking in their boots and even crying, that this was something that was mentally impacting them. And the only thing that could mentally impact a trained military, like what we saw in their eyes, in their faces, in their voices, was that this was an internal retaliation against a whistleblower soldier. And we know our son, right? We know our son. We know that he was, 18, 19, 20, had just turned 21 when they had murdered him. We know that young people um, are young, right? But we also know that what they were saying to us was absolutely insanity. It was just so absurd. It was so absurd. It was absurd for them. It was absurd for the condition of the military that we were walking into. It was absurd for what we were reading in the news, what we were hearing from the soldiers. It was totally upside down, backwards, and absolutely a retaliation even against us. And when we were our house was uh, searched without a warrant, when we were started. Sorry, I have some kind of hair. When we were searched without a warrant, when we were absolutely lied to, when we were told to investigate our sons, when we called and they took Richard off the rolls and said they couldn't help us, right? When we called and we were all very nice and very concerned, and we were telling them, no, what you're saying, let's look into this more because it doesn't sound right, right? And here all this was going on with Vanessa Guillen, um, and and they were making this huge mistake and then taking Richard off the rolls, not following their own procedures, their own duty to their own soldier. It was very, very clear that things were very, very bad, that this was a cover up. And so, and, the crimes just kept coming in, but not from Richard, against Richard. Against Richard. And there's so many crimes against Richard. And and then not getting our FOIAs answered, or all of these things that we have documented, and it will put it out again. But the main picture that I wanted to say is that by their actions, you will know them, right? By their actions. Um, and it was absolutely obvious to us that this was so big, that this was so big. And now it's coming out. Terrence Cole, who is the nominee for the DEA, his his testimony being questioned by, of course, our senator, who I'm not very fond of Graham. He, but I will tell you this about Senator Graham. He did send us a condolence letter. He does have enough, you can't, I want to say wisdom, but he is in touch with what's going on enough to know that he needed to send us a condolence letter. General Bernabe did not. General Garrett did not. General Stewart did not. Donna Martin did not. People we were face to face with, Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz did not send us a condolence letter. And these were people that were standing beside us. Veronica Escobar did not. Did not. But Senator Graham did. And I'm not fond of him because he could have done and should do so much more. He has a very, very bad habit, a very selfish habit of wanting to send our volunteer sons and daughters into harm's way. He's a warmonger. There's no other better way to say it. And yet, when we needed him, when one of his own is murdered on an American soil, on a military base, he lets you down. He's not there. He's not there at all. He's ready to just brush it under the rug, ignore it. And for that, he should not be a senator. He should not be a senator. But he did question Terrence Cole, because it's not, well, I do have a vote, and I do not vote for him. But he is my senator, and he did question Terrence Cole for DEA. And the interview, I hope everybody reads it, is really shocking because he really, uh, in so many words, says that the cartel runs Mexico, that it is a narco state, that it is a narco state, um, and that it has strings, and those strings are attached to the hand of China. That's really what he's saying. And those aren't my words, but it is very, very interesting. And I can tell you it corroborates our evidence that we have. And so that's why I'm bringing it up because I felt like that was pretty honest assessment. And now we have um, President Scheinbaum uh, turning President Trump down, turning not President Trump, but Americans, okay, because it's our volunteer sons and daughters that would go and help Mexico, right? And rightfully so, because they are our neighbors. They are our neighbors. And so we offered to send our best, our sons and daughters, to risk their lives to free Mexico of the control of the cartels that have ties, strings to the hands of China. And you know, I I don't really like to say country names in my brain. I don't think that way. I think by what law? How shall we now live? That's how my brain operates. And I don't want to live as a communist, okay? I don't want to live under the rule of law of a cartel, of fear, of bullies, with no rights to protect myself, with no freedom of speech, with no rights to property, to the pursuit of happiness. You know, I don't want to live under that kind of leadership and that kind of law. So when I say Chinese, I'm talking about the CCP that um, don't want you to have freedom of speech, will control you, bully you by giving you points or whatever, you know. And I know a little bit about um, China because our daughter went there, and so we do have uh, inside information. And so I think President Trump has been right all along about everything, right? He's been right all along about everything. And the president of Mexico, President Scheinbaum, rejected our sons and daughters, our help for the right to protect yourself, the right to free speech, the right to pursue happiness, the right to ownership, property ownership, right? Uh, that's what she turned down. That's what she turned down. And President Trump said she's afraid. She's afraid of the cartels. Okay. So, which might be right. I don't know. I don't know why she turned us down. But it's really sad for us because of Richard's partial remains being found in Mexico and Richard's case be crossing the border, being part of the attorney general there in Juarez, in Chihuahua. So, so that's really sad for us because, yeah, but we're marching forward, and a lot of information is coming out, and I thought that that was something that everyone that is interested in the southern border region, that they should read. This article, it's just really knocks your socks off, and it really corroborates everything that we have been saying, and then some, and then some. Because it really tells you who the Mayellas are, right? It tells you who the broken federal courthouse is for. It tells you who the broken DA. We don't have a DA in El Paso, so who's going to prosecute these cases, right? The infiltration of the cartel tied individuals in these in our law enforcement and our criminal justice system and in our military is getting very, very clear because how shall we now live? They want to have the criminal trafficking, right? They're protecting the criminal trafficking, which is, we just had this huge arrest for the child pornography, um, a huge arrest on that. Um, so, that's what they want. They want that emergency intake center. They want the continuation of the open border um, cover up of murders and child trafficking and military equipment and arms trafficking and all the drugs, which he talks about, of course, DEA, and the damage that does. And I want to make it very, very clear that all of that lousy stuff, that very evil stuff, those vices, the vices, are intentional. They're intentional to entrap, to be a stumbling block for our young people, for our people, and and they film things. Everything gets filmed, or they can absolutely make you a criminal overnight. They can make you a criminal with their traps, with their stumbling blocks, with their temptations that they put in front of you. And they were doing that to our soldiers, our young soldiers. And it was allowed and let happen, and even I think we need to look at bank accounts, because I think that they personally gained off of entrapping our soldiers so that they wouldn't be the best that they could be, all you could be, right? Join the army and be all you can be, that they wouldn't be able to accomplish the Medal of Honor ethos, that they wouldn't be able to be aspiring CID agents and aspiring um, medal having that esprit de corps, right? That esprit de corps, that there would be chaos, that there would be conflict, that there would be a lot of trouble within our military. And that's very, very concerning, because if, like Terrence Cole has just testified to, that the cartels have strings tied to the hands of the CCP, then this could be a war strategy, right? This could be a war strategy to uh, to to disable, to debilitate, to destroy, to weaken our military. And it's which leads me to Leilani Hart, and she speaks Chinese. I'm just telling you, she speaks Chinese. Kayla, Chinese. Um, she speaks Chinese, and then Jonathan Ambrise, Chinese. Um, trained like this, there is something really, really sinister going on here. um, at the southern border in El Paso on Fort Bliss, and it's very, very, very dangerous. It is a national security risk. And so, talking about Leilani Hart, who is a convicted criminal, okay, she has a long criminal history that goes back before Richard was even born, okay? She has immigration problems, okay? She has connections. I mean, I've had people tell me all kinds of things about her bragging that she runs the CID. And we're getting information that she was even called CID analyst, right? Because her access into the Fort Bliss CID was so complete, right? She could access anything. And we know from our task force Find Richard Halliday meeting that where we confronted the 15 plus agencies, organizations that were there. It was huge. It's just a huge case, right? International case, reaches across the oceans. Um, that that there were leaks, and there were leaks coming out of the CID, and they had no problems watching Marlon Soto cover it up right in front of everybody, right? Do something illegal right in front of everybody, right in front of two generals. Uh, or were there three generals? I know. I wonder if Stewart was there at the first task force. I think they already had removed Stewart. For a short time to send him to cover up school, to how to be a cartel tied cover up agent for foreign and domestic enemies of this country. Absolutely, because he's the one that told us that the barracks were swathed with weapons, and anyway, he told us a lot of things. And the girls being brought in during the lockdown, and the young girls and everything. Uh, you know, and they weren't standing 6 feet apart, okay? They were in there for the parties, right? And they were absolutely carrying all kinds of stuff in there with them. Um, and we have witness testimonies to that. So, um, yeah, in this meeting, we said that the CID was leaking, and they, right in front of our eyes, committed a crime. And so, of course, when as time went by and more information came out, and Judge Roger Rodriguez submitted his report that they kept from us, we wouldn't even know it unless he called us in January of 2022 and told us, introduced himself and told us that he submitted a report, and take these names down: Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa. And Leilani Hart, of course, is the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. And this access to CID files and tampering and everything, and them being family members, and being family members with benefits, okay? Family members with benefits. It seems like everybody got benefits from Leilani Hart, for in turn, she wanted, Benjamin benefits. But she gave out benefits quite a bit, and a lot of tricks. And so, that brings, tricksters, make friends that are tricksters. And, that's Kyla Cardona. Kyla Cardona, the assistant to Lieutenant General Sean Cardona Bernabe. And, so another trickster, and one individual. They have several individuals in common, like Eric Johnson, Eric I Love Crack Johnson, Eric I Love Crack Johnson, But they also have another one, Christopher Michael Meissner, CBP lawyer. But after we're getting a lot of information coming in, and we had to corroborate that. And um, so he definitely was a CBP lawyer, Customs and Border Patrol. That means he would have connections with Borstar, which is very interesting for us, and others. And so he is an important player. I shouldn't say player. He has an important role in this because he has some tricks himself, right? He's a trickster too. So, but after maybe with a little bit of a conscience, maybe I don't know if he had a moment of conscience, but after the Walmart mass shooting, it's been confirmed that he had a break. He had a mental breakdown, and it was so bad that he lost his law license. So this lawyer for CBP had no job then, right? Um, and things went really bad. He lost a lot. He lost a lot, and but he was then caught. Um, um, I want to say allegations, um, but he was determined to. He was discovered. He was accused of. I think that would be a good one. He was discovered and accused of stealing passports and identifications. Um, and so he was up to no good. He was up to no good. He was also um, caught and accused of, discovered to be impersonating a DHS lawyer after he lost his license. Okay, which is, it's bad enough to um, impersonate a lawyer, but to impersonate a government lawyer, a DHS lawyer, that is, ooh, that's really up to no good, right? That's really up to no good. And we know that he was up to no good with Leilani Hart and Kyla Cardona, the assistant to Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. So that is really, and I should have made sure that I was on. It's I'm burning the midnight oil. Okay, I think I am on. Lieutenant General. So, uh, it's been really, let that sink in. So now you have um, two major connections, and there's more, between Leilani Hart and Kyla Cardona, which connects to then Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, which also then connects to Major General David Stewart, which connects. David Stewart didn't do anything at that time without General Garrett. Okay, General Garrett was over the Vanessa Guillen case. He and they did not want another Guillen situation, which I think is so disrespectful of Vanessa Guillen. It's so disrespectful of that family, and it, having now being in communication with her mother, it's very clear that that at least Gloria does not believe that there is justice served in the Vanessa Guillen case, that justice has not been served in the Vanessa Guillen case. That's very, very clear. Okay. And so that tells you that not only has General Garrett and Major General Stewart and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe with the IG, the Provost Marshal at the time, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, that they did not do their duty. Okay? They did not do their duty. And one thing that's very clear after all these years is that we have discovered this case, which encompasses so much without having the access like a CID agent would, like an IG inspector would, like the provost marshal would, like a general would. We don't have the resources, we don't have the access like they do to the intelligence. We've had to be patient and work our tails off investigating, and talking with people and putting everything up, and we still figured it out. So, what I'm saying is they have no excuse when you have access to search dogs and drones and boots on the ground and vehicles and money and everything, and you have all of that and you have the responsibility to Vanessa Guillen, to Richard Halliday, and you fail and you have all of that access, all of the SAR radar technology, all of the manpower, and the hours. They were like bragging that, oh, we've spent so many hours on Richard Halliday's case. Look, if you really spent that much time on trying to get justice for Richard, you would have had it I would have said in a matter of hours. In a matter of hours. Okay, give it a couple days. Give it a couple days. When you have that kind of manpower and that kind of technology and that kind of access, you can absolutely figure out what happened to Vanessa Guillen, what happened to Richard Halliday in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. And I'm giving them days. And they were like, oh, we're spending so much time. It's so difficult. No, this was a cover up. This was an intentional cover up and intentionally choosing, just like President Scheinbaum just did, choosing foreign and domestic enemies, choosing the criminal element over their own country. Sorry, she just chose the criminal element over her own country and countrymen. And this is what uh, General Bernabe did. This is what Lieutenant General Bernabe did. This is what Major General Stewart did. This is what General Garrett did. This is what Lieutenant General Donna Martin did. They chose foreign and domestic enemies over our country and our countrymen. That's very clear. And that's what Scheinbaum just did in Mexico. We cannot have you have to ask yourself, how shall we now live? How do we want to live? With criminal trafficking? And I'm talking about human trafficking. I'm talking about these terrible illegal movies that, President Trump was saying, "Oh, Hollywood, it doesn't make movies." They're making all kinds of movies right now. They are just the most disgusting illegal movies, and they are hurting people, hurting children to do it, and hurting them physically and hurting them mentally. And we have a real mental health problem because of all the chaos, because of this bully, criminal trafficking, cartel tied, um, foreign and domestic enemy control over our system. And thank you, God, for giving us something I don't even think we deserve. I don't think we deserve this second chance. It is a grace, it is a blessing, and I'll take it. I'll take it. And so now what are we going to do with this chance, this blessing to rectify this criminal culture that um, has just metastasized um, in Mexico, in Canada, in the United States, I know in Europe. And so we really now, we have to take our sphere, right? Our sphere, which means, for me, it's a Halliday family. For me, it's for justice for Richard, for our family. That's how we feel about this. As a family, we need to, this is the cross that God gave us um, to, to rectify what happened to Richard. Um, and take a stand on this cover up, and the cover up then goes into the Walmart mass shooting, goes into the criminal law magistrate court, goes into the DA, goes into the medical examiner, goes into the federal courthouse, goes up into Congress, goes into our military. And we didn't plan that, but that is where this case is. And we just pray all the time that we can bless El Paso, because if we bless El Paso and get accountability for our son, then El Pasoans will be better off. And that means that those that live in Juarez, the Mexicans that live in Juarez, will be so much better off. That Chihuahua, maybe, you have Scheinbaum, not a Trump. She's not a Trump. She just sided with the cartel element. That's how she wants to live. And it's heartbreaking, because our word is that the work of stopping the spigots of the money for these NGOs, of course, crossed the border into Juarez, into Chihuahua. And there is like daycare centers that were abusing the children to make these movies, right? That are closing down. We heard that there is more than a half a dozen daycares that were closed down, that were up to no good. So there is real blessings to be had, right? Real progress for the people, for the working people. Because if you're a working mother and a working father, and you need a daycare service for your child to survive, you want it to be a legitimate, caring daycare center. And our intelligence that we have received is that these were criminal daycares abusing the children and filming it and profiting off of that. And this is just good news that they were shut down. And I even made maps years ago where there's these, places along the border that are connected to children. And I don't want to name them all because I don't know which ones are legit. But they're all along that border. And I know in our discussion on um, on the Facebook site They are discussing the emergency intake center. What happened there, I'm going to tell you right now. We have witness testimony that what happened there was so egregious. This is, you know, you have, look, never in the history of the world did you have hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied children, okay? No, these are taken children. These are taken children. Somehow, some way, they got these children away from their parents, from away from their mother, from away from their father, from away from their grandmother, from away from their aunt, their uncle, their whatever. They somehow, some way, something nefarious happened because it just doesn't pop out of nowhere that you have hundreds of thousands of children that, you know, are just being crossing the border and need to go through a humongous emergency intake center that can sleep 10,000 at a time. And then that go on and on where your hundreds of thousands are going through it, being trafficked through it. There's no other word for it. And then now there's an announcement. They have found 5,000. So out of hundreds of thousands, they have found 5,000. And we don't even know their stories. And we know from reports that most of them are no longer alive. Now that's just reality. And I don't want to live like that. And Scheinbaum is too scared, or she wants to live like that. I don't want to live like that. And I'm very glad that President Trump doesn't want to live like that. He wants to strengthen families. How do I know? Because of his policies. Day one, turning off the spigots, designating who were the groups that were doing this. 4 days after he took office, Richard in the line of duty. In the line, that is huge. Legally, that is huge. And it reveals that there was foul play, that he was murdered on Fort Bliss, that the generals didn't do their duty, that the CID didn't do their duty, that there was intimidation, that there was tampering, that there was witness tampering. That's what that confirms. And now we have corroborating evidence with Kyla Cardona, with Leilani Hart, Dallas Hart, Jonathan Ambrose, with Christopher Michael Meissner, who is CBP, who had the Borstar access, who had motive, because after the Walmart mass shooting, he couldn't handle it. He had a breakdown. He lost his license. And so after that, he had to find, he lost his job. So he had a motive, and he was absolutely discovered and accused of stealing identities, stealing passports. And he is connected with these two that we know. Leilani, total history of criminal activity, who then corroborates it, hard evidence, a affidavit with crimes against children, crimes against being in the country, crimes against children, and also criminal acts with weapons. But the main, we cannot overshadow the crimes against children, the worst types of crimes against children. And this was the connection with Kyla Cardona. This is the company that they kept. This is the company that they kept. I love crack. Eric Dwayne Johnson. Discovered and accused of stealing passports and identities and being an impersonator of a DHS lawyer. And then the worst type of crimes against children and crimes with weapons. So you've got drugs, weapons, children's, criminal trafficking right there in that mix, and a border connected lawyer that lost his badge and has a motive and is wanting identities. I think that is, and is connected to the generals. Clem Coward. Long time I've made all the connections with Leilani Hart and Clem Coward. She worked under Clem Coward, and then and that never kind of, that relationship was always there, and then of course Kyla's with Bernabe. So I'm not making this stuff up. It's all documented. It's all documented. I didn't do those crimes that Leilani did. I didn't write her affidavit for her. I didn't tell Kyla to be the assistant to Lieutenant General Bernabe. I didn't tell her to have a relationship with Eric I Love Crack Johnson and with Christopher impersonating a DHS lawyer, Meissner. I did not tell her to have a connection to Leilani Hart, who then has connections, more and more. And they are all absolutely connected to the Mayela Crucius, to the Ambris, absolutely, to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. This is a company that they keep, and it's criminal. And it's cartel tied, military tied, criminal trafficking, and now we're told that the strings go up to the hand of the CCP. And, wowzer, because who was the target of the Walmart mass shooting narrative? It was absolutely political. And it was absolutely, of course, it was a diversion against the audits and investigation into the criminal trafficking. And Richard was a corroborating whistleblower witness to it. And the Walmart mass shooting was a diversion for El Paso, and boy, was it. It was such a huge diversion, a bloody diversion. And then they framed the false narrative, something that would be very divisive And of course, there's no better divisive is to get the people against each other to claim that it was a racist hit. And Patrick Crusius is not a racist. Sorry, y'all. He's just not a racist. He's just, gosh, that and I'm not saying he's not a criminal. He is a criminal. He was there. But I don't even know, like because we haven't gotten all the evidence. We haven't had a trial, right? It's been sealed. Everything we have is because of these years and things coming out, right? Things coming out. But Patrick Crusius is not a white supremacist. I doubt it because it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. I doubt it if he wrote that manifesto. I doubt that. Not with his connections, his connections with trained hackers and cybersecurity technicians and, accountants and cyber accountants and cyber business, uh, you know, West Pointers. And his connections are a lot of computer savvy individuals that are up to no good. And so it's very hard for me to believe that Pat C. Wrote the manifesto, that he even cared about any of that. He cared more about the orange that he was buying. He probably cared more about the wedding. His brother going away from him, marrying this Mayella girl. I always, he probably thought Alexis was sweet. He didn't realize that it was very bitter. And, and his twin sister, you know, um, yeah, them, here he is being plead to 90 life sentences, and they're, doing their wedding showers, right? They're doing their honeymoon. They're going on their honeymoon and everything. Dreaming of, maybe one day having a baby bed in their house and all of that, and all their future dreams and whatever school that they got into because of anyway, yeah, and living in El Paso, and here he is getting pled to hate crimes, 90 life sentences to be spent in the Alcatraz of the Rockies, not Alcatraz that President Trump now wants to open up, because we have these judges that, don't want to allow the deportation of those that came into the country illegally out of the country back to where they came from, to legally apply if they want to so do so, to come back in, to legally apply. Yeah, it's a really, it's very backwards. Everything's a little backwards. Um, so, but this, uh, Eric Johnson and Chris Meissner, absolutely connect Leilani Hart with Kyla Cardona up to no good. I mean, really up to no good. So, thank you everyone so much for watching so late. Here it is, 1 a.m. in the morning, but it can't be helped. There's so much going on in the back, so all of this has to be documented and corroborated. And so we're working very hard. And, you know, um, there is this. Uh, a little bit of a sense of frustration because years have gone by where there hasn't been accountability. And I want to end with the note of hope, right? And duty. And, s- I think that you can't read the end of the book before you read through the all the chapters, right? You've got to do your duty. And you've got to, at least that's how we feel. Um, you know, everything's in God's timing. And if you think, I don't see this, I don't see that, uh, it's can you even imagine how frustrated President Trump felt in 2020? And he had to go through these 4 years of just continuous and severe attacks, all the audits, all the subpoenas his family had to go through and everything, his house being um, searched and all of that. And, you don't have to feel sorry for him or whatever. My point is that, you know, you just have to keep going. You cannot ever give up. You've got to keep going. And then, um, sometimes in our lifetime, we don't see the outcome. It's for our children to see or our children's children. And, one thing that we absolutely know for sure is that the crimes in this are so egregious that they hurt people continuously. And you cannot look the other way. You cannot address them. And, I can't tell you, I mean, people have said, oh, you should stop, or you should stop doing your lives, or whatever. Um, I just think of all the children. I think of all those that are losing loved ones from all the fentanyl stuff, that am I allowed to say that word? The abuse, the broken families, um, the fraud that is causing the prices to go up and hurting families that way. All the financial fraud is so expensive and is so straining. And when the family is strained, then it hurts the happiness of the family. And, then you can have problems that way too. So we want accountability for our son. And it just involves this much work. And it's, well, whatever. We got to do it. And so thank you so much for sharing, because too many people are getting hurt and we're losing our country. We have to address it. So here we are. And we just want to thank everyone. And Rob always says, and don't forget to tell all those people for so long every day that we love them, that we couldn't do this without you um, supporting us and sharing the millions of or views that we've had lately. Is just incredible. And I know you don't see them. I need to post up the numbers again because they're incredible. Um, so thank you for your shares. Thank you for your likes. And we will absolutely make the world a better place. And God will determine how much it is, right? How much that is. So thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow, God willing.